So a few days ago, we got the latest banner restricted announcement from Legend Story Studios, impacting all official formats of Flesh and Blood. And, if I was going to sum it up in one word, I would just have to say interesting. There's a lot of discussion around it, as you guys can imagine. That's probably why you're here as well. But what I wanted to do tonight was obviously talk about the changes and what those changes might mean, but also the whole situation itself, because there's a lot of things in here that I find, interesting. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. Man, are we bringing in this new year hot and heavy for Flesh and Blood, right? We've got spoiler season come up, new set, of course, and then banner restricted announcement, which changes up a lot of stuff. Technically not all of it until later, but one thing right now, which is kind of interesting in of itself, right? Interesting is definitely the theme for tonight. So before we dive into, all the full details around banner restricted and kind of my thoughts about it, I wanted to take a minute and give a shout out to FabDB. It's something that's basically become ingrained to many of us in the Flesh and Blood world. It's where we go to build our decks. It's where we go to look at lists. It's where we go to theorycraft, where we go to scan the database. And I think a lot of us, it's just so second nature to us to use it. I mean, it's by far and clear, in my opinion, the best site out there to do that. FabDB, if you're not using it, go check it out. There's a couple different levels of membership that you can do. Plus, they also have the Wrathe Times over there where they've got articles, and then they've got some paywall articles as well. So give that all a check out, but there is no better tool we have at our disposal, in my opinion, than FabDB. All right, so going into the banner restricted announcement, let me kind of summarize this. So tonight, by the way, tonight's beer chat. Cheers. We are drinking a Full Sail IPA out of Hood River, Oregon. It's okay. It's good, not great. Probably won't be buying it again, but it'll get it done. So anyway, that is not on the bullet point announcement. So the short here is Briar change, Duskblade banned, no duh there, right? I mean, that was just a CYA that they did before. Plunder Run's gone, Ball Lightning's gone. So I mean that's what happened. Why is this all interesting, right? Why do I find this so interesting? Why is that the theme of the night? So let's go. I do want to go. I know that it's kind of boring, but what I do want to, we're not going to read it word for word, don't worry. But what I do want to do is kind of bring up. Well, let's just go ahead and bring it up, because the language of a couple sections matters, and that's what I want to pay attention to. So what you see right now, and this is part of the discussion, right? It's over here. Sorry. What you see right now is the old banned and restricted announcement that we expected in December. So this was December 14th. And if you guys recall, they didn't change anything. They were happy with how CC was. They were happy with how Blitz was. And they just moved on, which was fine, right? I mean, it's the decision made at the time. But come a month later, January 12th-ish, a month-ish later, right, January 12th, we see the ban and restricted announcement today that changed a whole bunch of stuff. So kind of going into my first point is, what fundamentally changed between then and now, right, other than just community sentiment? Because there haven't been, right, so, there's really no argument that most of this was data-driven decision. There's really no argument there. I mean, I think that those were pro something happening in December, and surprised why not, we're the ones making those data-driven decisions. But again, there's been really no changes on that. So I do find that, like I said, interesting. I don't really care either way. Now, I do want to give them credit, and that's why we go here, right? So the announcement is bringing forward the BNR announcement scheduled for February 2nd. The reason that date was chosen was to allow for conclusion of the TOA competitive season. So basically, Ball Lightning's ban effective January 17th. Plunder 1's ban effective January 17th for constructed. But the Briar is effective immediately, right? Her errata is effective immediately. So, yeah, as far as, what's changed, well, I mean, let's be clear. What's changed is that, I mean, the new set's coming out, right? That's what's changed. But again, it is, I mean, it's just weird, right? Like, I think that's the better way. It's not really interesting. It's just weird that, like, nothing's really changed other than you've got the new set coming. Now, we don't know what's in that new set. So fair enough, right? But I also doubt that anything, it's not like, I don't think they've made that many changes between the 14th, because they were on vacation for a large part of that. So, like, again, I don't know exactly what's changed between the two, other than maybe just getting tired of hearing people bitch on social media. I mean, to be frank. And I don't think that's a bet. Like, again, I don't really care about people complaining or not. Like, I think as long as they were making database decision, which I think largely they did. But again, like I said, we don't need to get hung up on it, but they very clearly said, if we go back to the one on the 14th, it's like, we do want to take an opportunity to note that Briar's had a very successful championship season. So they, like I said, they already had the data there, and that data is the same as it was back then. So that almost lends you to believe that it's not a database decision, right? Because actually, I think that's fair, right? Because there has been no new data, right? Maybe one or two popped in, right? But by and large, there hasn't been any new data since the old BNR announcement, or lack thereof, and they're doing this. So it almost has to be just based on community feedback, right? Right? I mean, doesn't that logic hold? I think it does. Let me know in the comments if you agree with that or not, right? But we don't need to get hung up with this for an hour, but like I said, I don't really understand. And I don't care. Like, I think what we ended up getting was good, right? Like, I think overall that this is good and it's fine, and we're getting ready for the next set. But again, if the argument is that it's data-based, I don't think anything's changed, right? So it's got to be just community sentiment or whatnot, because I don't think the contents of Tales of Everfest have changed either. So anyway, the other thing that I think is really interesting about, and I'll even go so far, that what's weird about this is that the two changes, and I know there's not two, but there's the errata and then there's the bans, right? And they're treating them as two separate groups, right? So Briar, here we go back, yeah, you can see it, right? Briar's effective immediately, right? I'll go ahead and highlight it, right? Effective immediately, both adult and young versions are receiving a functional errata, so her ability that creates the embodiment of Earth token will trigger only once. Okay, I mean, and we'll talk about the errata in a second, but why is the errata effective immediately and the rest aren't, right? I mean, the argument basically being that they wanted to, let me see if I could, yeah. The reason the date was chosen was to allow for the conclusion of the Tales of Aria competitive season that was affected by COVID. We've decided instead to bring the announcement forward and exempt the Australian and New Zealand National Championship main events, not side events, from the erratas and bans. So, I mean, again, there's only a couple day gap, right, for the rest of the world. But it's kind of weird that if they wanted to hold back the banned and restricted cards for the main event, but they do implement the errata, like, that's kind of weird, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and again, there's no problem with it. Like, it's going to be very interesting to see how that changes things. But it's like, if you're making the database argument only again, right? Like, it's kind of cheating, right? Like, you're basically using, I mean, it doesn't matter because we already have to be clear, it doesn't matter because we already have what it's going to be. But, like, that's kind of weird. It's just kind of weird. I don't really know a better way to say it. Like, it's really odd to me that you'd put in one and not the other. Now, to be very, very clear here, I don't care. It doesn't affect me at all. All of our locals are going to be playing. I mean, obvious. Everybody else in the world is going to be playing it except for New Zealand National. So, affects me zero. I just think it's odd. So, anyway, enough of that. I think we're done. We'll go ahead and leave it up in the background because why the heck not? So, all right. Yeah. So let's talk Briar. Right. This is one a lot of people have been calling for it for a long time. I think the more popular one was to have it only trigger on elemental cards. I think this is the better way to go, because hit. Right? There's hit and there's damage, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, well, if you hit with something, she can really only create one or two of these tokens. Well, it's not true because it's anytime one of these deals damage, right? Anytime one of these deals damage. So if you're taking Arcane off of these things, it's big, right? I mean, you can stack those things pretty quick, and you can't always just block everything. Like it just doesn't work that way. So, I mean, this is not what I thought of. I mean, I kind of agreed that it should have. I was kind of in the camp of like, oh yeah, maybe that's the right way to go, is have it trigger off elemental stuff like that. So yeah, now it is a bummer. I mean, it's a bummer having Errata, like it is, but I mean, they weren't going to ban the hero, right? Like, let's all be honest, they weren't going to ban a hero. It wasn't going to happen. And if they were, it certainly wasn't going to be out until like another round of like legit full, like another core set round of heroes. You know what I mean? So we will see. I do think by and large, the Earth Briar version's not really affected by this. You know what I mean? There's a couple places where it deals arcane and does things, but I think by and large, it's not. I think just on the overarching statement, I think by and large, Earthbriar escapes unscathed, which is realistically probably the one that they tested more, right? So, I mean, I think this fits in line with that. Yeah. Okay, so let's keep going down. I know I'm going out of order here, but let's go ahead and talk Duskblade, right? So, because Duskblade's an easy conversation, right? When they first banned Duskblade, right? It was before the set even came out, right? You guys remember? You can go back, watch that video. I talked about it. I actually when I was doing the editing, I came back later and I put it in the video. I was like, hey, I have a tinfoil hat theory. I think the only reason they're not banning it in Blitz is because they don't want to have egg on their face of having a completely useless card in the set. And here we go banning it. And I'm pretty sure I'm right. Like, I think the only reason they didn't ban it in Blitz before was so that they could not have egg on their face. And they're like, oh, it probably won't be a problem in Blitz. Well, guess what it was, right? And so, I mean, that one was a no-brainer to me. It's still probably one of the largest tragedies we've seen because, like, it's a really cool functional, like, idea. Plus, people, it's a Majestic, and people are getting cold foils of it, and it's just not playable. But it makes sense. It needed to go. It makes complete sense. Adam brought it a couple weeks ago to our local just to, like, give it some reps, and it was freaking gross, man. Gross. All right, so next is Plunder Run, the big old nasty Plunder Run, right? So you guys know where I stand on Plunder Run, because I shot that video that was, I don't know, it was ban the old to make way for the new. I think something like that, right? I don't like it when... Now, so to be clear, the overall statement here is I don't really care if Plunder Run's gone, right? I really don't. It does bother me that if... I know I'm going out of order. I mean, I'm hopping around, whatever. But if the card was clearly deemed to be design restrictive, right? I mean, that's probably really the reason they did this. Is they're like, look, this is going to cause problems even if we fix it for this, it's probably going to cause problems in the future. Let's just get rid of it. I mean, let's be honest. There's no way that they're not going to create a card in the future that lets you draw a card on hit, right? I mean, I think it was just the problem with Plunder Run was, I mean, we talked about it. It wasn't bulletproofed because it said the next time, right? So it wasn't bulletproofed for that, and I think that was the real problem. So, now I still functionally have a problem with saying, oh yeah, this card that's been around for all these sets is now broken because this new person uses it. Like, I kind of have a problem with that because it's a design miss. Like, it's a straight up design miss. Now, if they want to fix it because it's going to kneecap them in the future for design, fine. And like I said, that's why I don't really mind the Plunder Run thing. I really didn't like the argument. It's like, well, everybody's playing it because CNC and E-Strike, and then the counter to that is like, whoa, but you can run 9 copies of Plunder Run. It's like, yeah, but most people aren't running 9 copies of Plunder Run. Like, most people are running Blue Plunder Run, and like there's a couple select people who are running 9 copies, right? So again, that fits actually, like, I know you think it's a counter, but it fits into my point of, if most people are running 3 copies of it, if most people who are running the card are running 3 copies of it, and somebody new comes and starts running 9 copies of it, is it really the old card that's a problem? I don't think so, right? I think it was a design miss. But again, if it's too restrictive, fair enough. The one that I'm not a fan of, and when it first came out, I was like, what? But anyway, Ball Lightning. So Ball Lightning, yeah, I've gone back and forth on this a lot. It's not really back and forth on it, but like I go back and forth between yeah, it'll be fine and like what the hell. So Ball Lightning really surprised me. It caught me off guard. How do I say this? I don't really disagree fundamentally with what they're saying about Ball Lightning. Like I personally thought that it blocking for 0 and having a 0 block, I thought that was a really cool design space considering what Briar did. So they like, I thought Ball Lightning was fine. I thought it offered some, I mean, I was having a lot of fun with it with Lightning Lexi and like trying to get stuff off that. And like, you know, lightning dealing additional damage was like a core fundamental thing of the set. It was for lightning. And I guess that's more my thing here is like Ball Lightning can only be used by 2 heroes. So again, I want to be clear. I don't fundamentally disagree that Ball Lightning causes some problems. I don't, right? Like, honestly, if it cost... I don't know that you'd play it if it cost 1, though, right? Like, I think that's part of the... like, would you play... Maybe if it blocked for 2, you would. I don't know. I don't know that you'd play it. I don't know. The thing is, like... I mean, remember, so... just we were kind of laughing about last night because so Dice Commando, myself and Josh, we were able to spoil Ball Lightning and Sting of Sorcery, right? We spoiled both of those. It was in that 4-card packet that all kind of worked together. It was Rites of Lightning and Arcanic Shockwave were the other two. So they sent them to us as like a flavor packet, right? Like they were meant to be spoiled together. So like Sting Ball was clearly a thing that they designed. Like it was very clearly a thing that was designed. So that's what I'm saying here is like Ball Lightning's only usable by 2 heroes. Sting Ball is only usable by 1. And I'm not saying Sting Ball was the one that got it banned necessarily, but like, I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick here. I'm really not. But like, it can only be used by 2 heroes and it's getting banned because it's too good. Like the card is restricted to all get out. It was within its own set tested, and it was clear like before the next set even released, they found that it like that's a pretty big miss. Like I'm not trying to be a dick here, but like that's kind of a mistake, right? So again, it kind of calls into question the Duskblade thing was a one-off. They said it was added late, whatever. But like we saw this issue, in the band announcement for Chane, right? You guys will recall they're like, yeah, we had too much focus on the limited experience. And like, is that kind of what happened here again, maybe? Like, I don't know. It just, Earthbriar's fine. The Cheerios Briar thing, like, probably seems like that didn't get really tested. And like, if you're deeming Ball Lightning to be broken now, like, that was, I mean, that's like Ball Lightning's like a fundamental piece of that set for Lightning. So, I don't want to get hung up on this too much, but like, hopefully you see what I'm saying, right? Is like, if you deem a core fundamental piece of 1/3, I think that's fair. A core fundamental piece of 1/3 of your set, you have to remove because it's broken for what it does. Like, I think it's pretty clear that like, it just didn't get tested right. I mean, like I said, I'm really not trying to be a jerk here, but I think it's just, I think it was a miss, right? I'll move on and say I think it was a miss, but I don't really, it's not that I disagree with it. Like I get it. I get both sides of it. I just think Ball Lightning getting banned's kind of a bummer. And maybe they'll backfill with something, but I don't think it's going to happen in Everfest. Like it doesn't fit theme. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they got like a late slide in like Duskblade or something, but that also probably isn't going to end well because we saw. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. Now, I don't know. We talked about all the various pieces as we went here, but why do I think it's so interesting? I mean, fundamentally because yeah, there's a lot of things that kind of surprised me. I don't know, just I mean, the time, like I said, I mean, we started, the timing thing was interesting. The fact that nothing had really changed between the two other than the fact that the new set was looming. And then the fact that they had 2 different implementation dates. And like, Because if you really think about it, that's the thing I forgot to mention before, right? If you really think about it, the New Zealand Nationals, they're actually going to exist in their own meta, right? I mean, very, very, very minor changes, but they'll exist in their own mini meta, right? There will be no other events ever that are the same as those. And like, that's weird, right? Like if the whole plan was to hold stuff back to finish the meta, why do you create a mini meta? You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. I mean, I guess it would technically, I mean, if you implemented them all immediately, I guess it would technically still be a mini meta before Everfest came out, but like holding it back for those two, like they're the only events that are ever going to happen on that specific setup. And it's just weird. I mean, it's not a problem. Like I said, not a problem. Doesn't affect me. I don't really care. It's just odd. And then, you know, I think the rest of all this makes sense. I kind of like the Briar chain. Like I'm like, what I mean is like, I like the decision they made. I like the change they made to it. Like, I think it was smart. Cause I think you still could have had the stack damage problem, but you, if it was elemental, I mean, but you'd have had to work harder for it. So I don't know. Well, I do know how I feel, but I mean, ultimately, I'm not really that like emotional. That's why I wasn't like jumping on this the minute it came out. Plus, it gave me time to think about it. But like, I'm not like that emotionally invested in it because I think everything's going to change and Everfest comes out and it's going to be super exciting. And now we know what the new baseline is going in, so we can actually evaluate everything fairly during spoiler season, which is a huge plus. So I think that's great. I do think losing Ball Lightning is a bummer because it's what Lightning was. I mean, that was Lightning's thing, right? So. But people figured it out, right? Heaven's Claws in the arsenal for Go Again on Lexi, I mean, is still pretty good. Still pretty good. People figure out real quick the Lightning Surge is real good. And anyway, folks, I think that'll do it tonight. Been going for quite a while, actually. Quite a while. So thank you for joining. But, you know, hopefully you guys have been typing as we've been going. I'm really interested to hear your guys' thoughts on it. You know, the way the community's been reacting has been interesting. You know, told you, you know, get good, whatever. The whole thing's kind of a study in human behavior and the failures thereof, right? But a lot of people eating crow right now, and then a lot of people blaming other people for making them eat crow, and it's just how it goes. So anyway, if you've left me nasty comments in the last little bit talking about Briar, then you know, it is what it is, folks. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking, how you're feeling about it. Right? I mean, I think it's fair to have all sorts of range of emotion. And I think what's fun about something, I mean, not necessarily fun, but what's interesting about stuff like this is that your emotions can change over time, right? They certainly do. So anyway, I think that'll do it. That'll wrap it up. We'll end the beer chat. Cheers and go Commando.